Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another second stimulus check and second stimulus package unemployment benefits extension update. So we do have brand new news, basically just in information about the $2,000 stimulus checks that you guys have that we've kind of talked a little bit already about, but we do have brand new information and an update about that. Now I will make probably a future video, probably the next video actually, either coming out probably either today, later, or if anything tomorrow, talking a lot more about the actual stimulus check and stimulus package and unemployment that is basically already officially approved and it's signed and stamped. The only reason we're visiting the $2,000 stimulus check is only because the time is a little bit more urgent, and also because this stimulus check is potentially going to be attached to the actual $600 stimulus check that you guys probably have already heard. It's going to potentially bump it now higher, so that's kind of why we're focusing about it. So we're going to start right away, but before we begin, make sure you smash the like button because it does always help to support this channel. We do have relatively great news to kind of share with you guys, and also consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification button for future updates, especially with a lot of things potentially coming up soon, actually very likely to come up soon. And also feel free to comment any questions, thoughts, or honestly just really anything at all or at any time. Alright, so with that being said, let's get started. So the really great news to basically share with you guys is that the second stimulus check, specifically the $2,000 stimulus check, has officially been approved and signed inside of the House. I believe the final numbers, it was approved by, I think it was like 275 to 134. And then remember to keep in mind is that it just needs to have 2/3 to pass. So the really great news is that it has officially been approved inside of the House. It is also assumed that Donald Trump will probably pass it, since this bill, the reason it exists was because of Donald Trump's words. Of course, we can only confirm it then, because keep in mind there's been many cases where, you know, we've had a politician that will say a certain something, but then when it gets to his actual person's desk, we don't know if they're actually going to physically approve it, because as we've known, actions kind of speak louder than words, and it's especially very much true in the world of politics. So the story right now is that it's going to be voted on inside, or at least it's going to be sent over to the Senate. I think the general idea right now is that the other really great news is that we've also received some feedback for even some of the Senate Republicans that have even already voiced that they are actually in favor of this $2,000 stimulus check. So that is the really great news about it. I believe a couple of them, I think Lindsey Graham, I think, is in support of it. Josh Hawley is in support of it. I believe even Marco Rubio. So the idea is that there actually are a good number of Senate Republicans that have actually officially voiced in support of it. Chuck Schumer has supported, of course, although he is a Democrat, but nonetheless he has supported, and being that he's also in the Senate, he's also trying to convert and preach for more people inside of the Senate to try to really support of it. The other much more brand new news is that we've also received word from Bernie Sanders, and he's actually really trying to push for the $2,000 stimulus checks. Now, one thing that has actually recently happened has actually been, because some of you guys may not know, but basically Donald Trump recently vetoed a defense bill that's currently being voted on, and I know that Mitch McConnell is trying to override that veto to try to get the defense bill. The story right now is that Bernie Sanders is actually threatening that he's going to basically make it difficult for Mitch McConnell to pass his defense bill. So the general idea, he's actually kind of threatening and putting Mitch McConnell in a very huge spot right now, because the general idea is that if Mitch McConnell doesn't put the $2,000 stimulus check onto the floor for passing, because keep in mind is that even though they're trying to send it over to the Senate for voting, there is a chance that Mitch McConnell can actually just block it completely, so it doesn't even manage to even hit the floor. I think the general idea is that Bernie's trying to at least get it to allow people to have a voice to try to vote for it, because if he doesn't do it, he's going to make it difficult for Mitch McConnell to pass his own defense bill. Basically, it's kind of a situation where it's like, if you let my $2,000 stimulus check bill at least get voted on, I'll maybe help you back with your defense bill. I think the other also really huge thing is to keep in mind is, and we've kind of mentioned in the last video, so definitely check it out, although this is a little bit more of an add-on extension of information, is that the Senate elections, as crazy as it is to think, is only 1 week away. And it's insane to think. Now, thankfully, we at least have some stimulus already approved by then. But nonetheless, the Senate elections is basically about 1 week away. Right now, the quick recap is that basically Mitch McConnell, I believe the Republicans are still winning and do have the lead inside of the Georgia Senate elections, but it is very, very small. It's a very, very tiny, tiny lead. And I think that he's kind of right on the edge right now, that there's a lot of people that say that if Mitch McConnell does not bring this to the floor, then there's an even greater chance that this Senate is going to be about to flip, and then they can potentially complete the blue wave. And I'm really just speaking objectively, because I know there's some people that support blue, some support red, but just really speaking objectively is that if you want a very large stimulus package, you would probably prefer the Senate to flip. And if Mitch McConnell doesn't pull this through, there's a very reasonable chance to think that the Senate will maybe now have a much, much reasonable chance of flipping. And then, if that ends up happening, when Biden takes over, we'll just bring back the $2,000 stimulus talks again, and then now it'll be easy. More or less, much, much easier, smooth sail to finally be able to prove it. Basically, the idea is that I think every single person has put Mitch McConnell in a little bit of like a catch-22 situation. No matter what happens, there's a way to kind of spin the twist. If he puts the $2,000, hopefully it passes and goes smooth sail. If he doesn't, then there's going to be consequences there, and he's going to potentially drag us, all of us, down together with the Democrats, specifically the Democrats that are trying to preach, and actually even the Republicans too, but basically the people that are in support of the $2,000 stimulus check, of having a little bit more power now than Mitch McConnell. I do also believe that that defense bill that Mitch McConnell is trying to pass, it can actually still very, very much pass later on, even if Bernie Sanders basically tries to. It's just the idea is that Bernie Sanders can make it more difficult for him to pass it. But the big thing is that very, very likely, if they try to delay it very, very much and try to start to stall and push the time, then there's a very reasonable chance that by the time that that defense bill has any chance of basically happening anyway, the idea is that the Georgia Senate elections would have potentially already happened. So if that ends up happening, then by then there is a chance that maybe it will have already flipped, assuming that it maybe does actually flip, because we don't know if it's actually going to flip now, but it's certainly going to increase the odds of it happening if Mitch McConnell doesn't approve, or at least certainly doesn't even bring up that bill to be voted on. Because keep in mind is that there's a say that he might even try to protect and hold on to it so it doesn't even get voted onto the Senate floor, but I believe that they're trying to push for it right now, and there is a whole collection of people on both the Democrat and the Republican side that are trying to preach for it, as we've kind of mentioned a whole bunch of names. Of course, a ton on the Democratic side, so Pelosi, Schumer, AOC, and then of course even on the Republican, Trump is trying to push for it. So that is the really, really great news, is that it definitely swings inside of our favor if we're trying to support it. And as we mentioned, the crazy thing about it is that this $2,000 stimulus check would apply to almost everyone. Or at least not everyone, but certainly even children. So the idea is there will be families that can potentially now receive $8,000 in stimulus checks. But I talk a lot more about that in the last video, so definitely check that out if you guys are interested in kind of the part one to what we're talking about now. And then the other big thing is even more so is that it also affects the recess, because the general idea when it comes to bills is that when Congress goes on recess, a lot of times the procedure to pass an actual physical bill actually dies. So if they don't pass the bill in between every single, I guess you can say the gaps that when they go on recess, generally what happens is that now when they come back, they now have to start the negotiations over again. That's kind of the reason why they still left a crew inside of Congress during Christmas break when this original bill struggled to pass. Even though they can send people out, someone has to remain in Congress. But the big thing is that there's about to be a transition of power where the new people are going to be entering into Congress. So this is also going to force a transition of power from happening, which means that without this procedure, the general idea is that it's going to make it more difficult for every single person, but even more difficult for Mitch McConnell now. So if this was, logical, unless he wants to bring everyone down together, I think that he'll at least hopefully bring it to at least be voted on into the Senate floor. Now, whether we're able to convince and sway it, then we're gonna have to let time tell. But that's really what I wanted to basically share with you guys now. So I think it is lots of great news, or certainly hopeful news that's maybe to potentially come. We're just gonna have to hang tight and try to see what ends up happening. So with that being said, that's what I really want to cover. Remember to smash the like button if you did hopefully find some insight into that. Consider subscribing so you guys can get the update to know what ends up actually happening through these negotiations. And feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about honestly anything at all. Maybe whether or not you guys think this 2000 will go through or not, or if you think Mitch McConnell would, for the sake of his own Georgia election, is going to vote, or honestly just anything at all. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, stay tuned for hopefully more, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.